This is a video about one of the strangest, most wonderful things that has ever happened in my life. So a little background. The background context is that when I was 13 years old, I lost my mother. We had an incredibly close relationship. It was probably, at the time, the most significant relationship in my life. And, it was very sudden, completely unexpected, came in the form of a car accident. It gave me an NDE, but, I would have traded everything to be able to time travel and reverse that car accident and go back to normal and have my nuclear family as it was. And so I don't think I was ever really taught to grieve very well. And a lot of my own doing, I think, something deep in me. I pretended a lot that I was much better than I was. And some kind of battery, that was there wore out over a few years. And so, I'd had actually really wonderful girlfriends, really wonderful friends. No complaints about my family, but sometimes you can be surrounded by wonderful people, and there's nothing they can do at all to fill the deep gaping hole that you feel in yourself. And so, one of the things about that was maybe a positive about the years after my mother died was I had an awful lot of independence. That wasn't quite there before. So as a young teenager, I could go out and walk around my town at midnight or 1 a.m., just take some long walks down to the lake and, try to contemplate the life, the universe, and everything. Do this, do that. So one night came, and it was a winter night. A beautiful dark sky, a few twinkling stars here and there in that big blanket of night. And I walked just to the corner across the street from my house, and it suddenly came to me, this is not something I was thinking of, but it suddenly out of my heart, really, almost not even in my head, it felt like it was coming straight out of my heart, came the words, if there's a God, if there's a God or a goddess or some kind of benevolent intelligence in this thing called life, I could use some help, because as you could see, I'm not doing very well. Specifically, I'm not doing very well without a mother. Could you send me a mother? And, up here, and even in here, I wasn't asking for some stepmother. Oh God, I didn't want that at all. Actually, not at all. But it just came from the heart as it was. And so it really broadcast right out of my heart. And to my extreme surprise, there was an answer immediately. And the weird part about the answer was that when I delivered this message, I was looking up at that beautiful sky. And so the answer came both from the entire sky, and also felt like there was a person, voice standing, this far from my ear, And this didn't creep me out. Maybe it should have creeped me out, because the voice said, "I'll be your mother." And I was thinking, oh dear, is this another ghost? And then I said, okay, who are you? And then the voice replied, well, I'm the dark goddess of destruction. I've always been your mother. And those are very interesting words for me to hear at that time. I wasn't a deep scholar of comparative religion at that age. I wasn't necessarily, that aware that there could be, a form of the goddess that is the dark goddess of destruction. But somehow when I heard those words, it made complete and total sense. It made absolute sense. It was as if, yeah, in fact, even in my birth mother, there was a sense that, she was in some ways of a fractal, an emanation, if you will, of that great goddess of destruction. And so I said, well, okay, that's great. And then essentially the conversation was over, and I again had this sense of like I'm just standing, on a street corner. There, the sky isn't, communing with me in some way. There's nobody to my side. It's very quiet. And so I went back into the house, and I didn't really mark this as anything particularly significant because I was like, well, maybe it's just my imagination. That's my imagination is producing something that perhaps I want to hear, I need to hear, or some way comforting, albeit in a very creative way, to say the dark goddess of destruction. So I let it pass. And then it was only like 2.5, 3 years later. It seemed like a lot back then. 2.5 years later, I end up coming to this meditation center on the Oregon coast. And one of the main teachers at the center is named Kalima. And I didn't actually really know the meaning of, I was trying to learn like 18 Sanskrit names as quick as I could. And that was very difficult. I was pronouncing everything very, very poorly. And I didn't know the meanings of most of them, even at that time, Kali or Kalima. And it was not in my head. And so it took some time before I'd successfully learned all the names and all the meanings. And then, in addition, remembered this random event, on the side of the road. And when I did put two and two together, wow, like what a sense of like profound fulfillment across time and space was there. What a sense of being mothered. And there's sort of just a profound sense that, looking back at many parts of my life and the type of people who I was drawn to, obviously retroactively, but it was, oh my God, Kali's been around the whole time. The Black Madonna has been around the whole time. And I'm proud to, in my heart, I'm very, very proud to be a son of Kali. So there's my campfire story. If you liked it, please do like and subscribe, leave a comment. I actually do enjoy reading of other people's experiences of this sort. It certainly does help in the old YouTube algorithm, apparently. And also, if you're, have seen my other videos and you're into what I do, feel free to check out my writings on Substack. I'm a little bit behind on my production schedule, but I'm always looking for readers and subscribers on Substack. And as many of you already know, I keep myself very busy teaching meditation classes and also giving astrological and intuitive readings. So have a lovely, lovely day.